Namaskaromi, swagatam sarvebhyaha. In our previous segments, we've been looking at how the passive construction, the karmani prayoga, allows you to shift the focus of a sentence from the agent of an action, the doer, onto the object of the action, the person or thing to whom the action is being done. We're now going to combine that phenomenon with another kind of shift that takes place in Sanskrit, where verbs are turned into adjectives. In English, these are words like eaten or drunk or spoken or known or seen. They're called participles in English. In Sanskrit, they're going to be denoted by various names, really depending on how they get formed. We'll be starting with the most important and most common form of the participle, which is the past passive participle. In Sanskrit, these are called the ktaha, or sometimes it's called the bhute krudanta. Most of the time, we'll just call them PPPs. In this segment, let's talk about how to use PPPs. In the next segment, we'll dig into how PPPs are formed. The PPP, the past passive participle, does two things. First, because it's passive, it's going to move our focus from the agent of an action onto the object that the action is happening to. Second thing it's going to do is to move the emphasis onto nouns and adjectives, collectively known as nominals within the sentence rather than verbs. And it kind of liberates you from conjugation, right? The ganas and the stems and all of that morphological business. To show you what I mean, consider the following English sentence. Sita eats the 3 or more fruits. Right? The basic active way to express this in Sanskrit is Sita phalani khadati. Right? Sita is in the first case, the nominative. Phalani is in the second case, the accusative. Khadati is the verb, and it agrees with our subject, Sita. Right? In our last segments, we talked about how to turn this into a passive construction, the karmani prayoga. In English, it'll be expressed by saying 3 or more fruits are being eaten by Sita. Right? Our formula is going to be 1 goes to 3, 2 goes to 1, VA goes to VP, meaning whatever's in the first case, you turn it into the third case, Sitaya. Whatever's in the second case, turn it into first case, Phalani. Right? The active form of the verb, you turn it into the passive form, and you make it agree with our new subject. We do that by taking the root khad, add the passive marker ya, atmanepada endings that matches our new subject, Phalani. Right, third person plural. So we get Sitaya phalani khadyante. The 3 or more fruits are being eaten by Sita. That's our present passive conjugation. And if we want to make it into a past tense, if we wanted to say the fruits were eaten by Sita, one way that we know how to do it, which we saw last time, was the passive imperfect conjugation. We take our passive stem, kadya, and do our normal imperfect business, right? The augment on the left side of it, secondary atmanepada ending on the right side. So we get Sitaya phalani akadyanta. The fruits were eaten by Sita. There's another actually easier way to make this same statement that avoids using verbal conjugation altogether. To use that, we take our past passive participle, the ktaha in Sanskrit. PPPs are adjectives. They're formed from verbs just like any other adjectives. They're going to have to agree in case, gender, and number with the nouns they're modifying. The PPP for eaten, for example, is going to be khadita. We'll find out how to make it in our next segment. We can then create an A equals B sentence, also known as a copula sentence, using the verb us to be instead of conjugating the past passive imperfect stuff. Sitaya phalani khaditani santi. Now, if you remember, when you have A equals B sentences, when you have copulas, you can drop the verb asti. Right? So in our sentence, you can just drop the plural form santi here and just have Sitaya phalani khaditani. The fruits were eaten by Sita. Look at how easy that is, right? All we do is to make that past tense sentence is to deploy an adjective, khadita, meaning eaten, and make it agree with the thing or things that were eaten. And that's it. You don't have to conjugate. You don't have stems and augments and no verbs at all, actually, in the sentence. Just nouns and adjectives, namas and visheshanas. Sitaya phalani khaditani. The fruits were eaten by Sita. here, Khadita is going to be the PPP of Khad, and it's agreeing with the Palani Khaditani. Sitaya jalam pitam, the water was drunk by Sita. Pita is the PPP of Pa, to drink, and it agrees with jalam pitam. Sitaya Ramaha drishtaha, Rama was seen by Sita. Drishta is the past passive participle of drish, to see, and it's agreeing with Ramaha drishtaha. Notice here that, like other passives, the PPP focuses on the object of the action, and the adjective now agrees with that object. If Sita saw a girl and not Rama, it'll be Sitaya kanya drishta. If Rama saw the same girl, it would still be Ramena kanya drishta. Right? The PPP stays the same because it agrees with the kanya, not with Rama, who's in the instrumental case. So that's how the PPP is going to reduce a past tense sentence to just a noun and an adjective. It becomes a game changer, actually, because it allows you to avoid having to conjugate verbs at all, basically, and it sets up the language for a tremendous amount of complexity and flexibility. Because when you turn an entire sentence into now just an adjective, guess what you can do? You can subordinate that sentence, that expression, into a larger sentence and create a more dense, more concise, more intricate act of communication. So, how about this? See if you can understand what's going on in this sentence. Sitaya drishta kanya grame vasati. Here the basic sentence is kanya vasati grame, right? The girl lives in the village. The root vas means to live or dwell in. Grame is the village. But Sitaya drishta provides us an additional bit of information about this girl. She was the one who was seen by Sita. Drishta Sitaya. The whole sentence now means the girl who was seen by Sita lives in the village. We've in effect combined two different bits of information together in a concise, packed, elegant way. And Sanskrit really loves to do this on a regular basis. It gets even more complex. If the noun is not in the nominative, consider what happens, right? In the following sentence, Vanam gataya ramaya vruddha palam dadati. The basic sentence here is vruddha palam dadati. The elderly lady gives the fruit. Who does she give the fruit to? Rama, to Rama. Ramaya. It's in the dative, right? But wait, there's more information we know about Rama because of that PPP. He is vanam gataha. He has gone, gata, to the forest, vanam. The full sentence has the following meaning. The elderly lady gives the fruit to Rama, who has gone to the forest. This kind of embedding of PPP clauses within frame sentences can happen with any other case, with any other number. You can embed the PPP in all sorts of complex ways within a sentence. Let's see if you can understand the following sentence. And this is going to be your big test to see if you know Sanskrit so far. Ramena drishtanam vanaranam nrupena saha lakshmanaha bhashate. Now, what on earth can this sentence mean, right? Always start with your basic anchor in the sentence, the actively conjugated verb, and the nominative that goes along with it. In our case, it's Lakshmanaha bhashate. Lakshmana speaks. Let's try to go from right to left, generally, to unpack the sentence. Who does he speak with? Nrupena saha. Lakshmana speaks with the king. Who is the king a king of? Vanaranam nrupena, with the king of monkeys. Lakshmana speaks with the king of the monkeys. What had happened to these monkeys? They were seen, they were drishta, right? Drishtanam vanaranam. And who were they seen by? Ramena, by Rama. So we've put all of that information together and we get Lakshmana speaks with the king of the monkeys who were seen by Rama. Ramena drishtanam vanaranam nrupena saha lakshmanaha. If you can understand this sentence and understand how it works, how turning verbs into adjectives, these participles, these PPPs, allows the language to grow more flexible, more complicated. You're now, believe it or not, reaching a very important starting point that Sanskrit learners found themselves at about 2,000 years ago in India, when this language first started being used in a more precise, dense, and intricate forms of poetic expression, intellectual argumentation, knowledge production. The PPP, at least in my opinion, becomes the start of something really, really big in Sanskrit. So with that, let's stop here. Let's digest all of this a little bit. When we come back, we'll turn to how to form these ktahas, right? These PPPs, the bhute kridanta. Until then, thank you for watching. See you next time. Punarmilamaha. Dhanyavadaha.